Welcome, anime fans and the anime curious, to Where There's a Weeb, There's a Way, a podcast series in which a seasoned otaku and a newbie attempt to put together an anime canon. We're going to be taking a look at some of the most influential shows and films, along with some more modern curiosities to help break a newcomer into the medium. We're your hosts, Grace and Chris. And yet, today we have an appointment at the Office of Spirits and such, and we're going to talk about Mob Psycho 100.
So Mob Psycho 100, the very popular series from Bones. We're back with another Bones TV series after Fullmetal Alchemist, the Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
And My Hero.
Oh, My Hero, yeah. Sorry, I forgot about I always forget Bones and My Hero. But yeah, they've appeared quite a bit in the throughout this podcast series, whatever you want to call it, as of late. So, Mob Psycho 100 is an adaptation of a manga series of the same name, known in the Japanese as Mob Psycho Hayaki, which is literally just Mob Psycho 100. Written and illustrated by One, as in the number one, and ignore my
very Yorkshire pronunciation.
Ignore my very Yorkshire pronunciation of the word of a number one. So One is an interesting character, I think, in kind of the annals of like manga and anime. Of course, One is the artist probably best known for his web comic manga series, One Punch Man, which I have of course seen. I've seen the first season, Grace hasn't. I love the first season of One Punch Man, but I've not read the manga. I've also not watched the second season of the anime because I've not heard very good things about it. I've just stayed away. But One's kind of interesting in that, like, he's self-published, but like his art isn't, certainly his early art isn't held in very high regard. He's ostensibly not a good artist. Certainly not for like the early part of his career. But obviously the stories themselves are have really touched people and kind of really connected with people to the point where One Punch Man kind of became such a a popular sensation that when he got picked up by Weekly Shonen Jump, they actually remade it with an artist with a bit more traditional skill to them. But I would argue that over the course of his career, One's kind of become like a much better artist, and the art of Mob Psycho is certainly a lot better than his early work with One Punch Man. But just to say as well that we've not read the manga, I've only seen kind of bits of it. Yeah, so in a kind of a similar vein to kind of One Punch Man, which is a very satirical take on the shonen genre, Mob Psycho 100 kind of keeps that same comedy stylings but goes for a much more wholesome story with character and heart and empathy. And not that One Punch Man doesn't have any of those things, it's just that series is much more, it is a gag manga basically. It's got a single joke. Mob Psycho is basically that, but with a bit more heart injected into it. So we're talking about the anime adaptation of the manga today. We're talking about the first two seasons, which are currently the only seasons out at the moment. We're really hoping for an announcement of season 3, so we can kind of end the story. So the first season of the anime aired in 2016, and the second season of the anime aired in 2019. So there's 25 episodes to talk about. Yeah, it's a series that I've heard a lot about. I didn't really know much about it going in, but it's one that I know people really love, really like a lot. Like the image of the main character, Mob, is quite popular on the internet. Kind of keeping that similar sort of like blocky, slightly dim look, which a lot of the One Punch Man characters kind of have. And yeah, we're gonna talk about Bones' adaptation today.
So I guess we should talk a bit more in depth about the premise of this show.
Yeah. So the premise of Mob Psycho 100 is that we live in a world where spiritual happenings and weird things happen all the time, which involve a spiritual world, ghosts, and reading people's minds, and espers are actually a real thing, but they're still like a bit of an undergroundy phenomenon. It's not like a world like My Hero Academia, for example, where everyone blatantly has like superhero powers. It's more of like an underground thing, and even if people do have like esper-like powers, they're not very strong. You know, like you meet people who can like produce a flame for like a single second, for example, or can like kind of half bend a spoon kind of thing. So, you know, it's a world where the power levels are very, very low, especially in the first season. But into this mix is a character called Shigeo, aka Mob, the titular character of Mob Psycho 100, who is a bit of a wunderkind when it comes to the old Esper powers. His powers are insanely powerful, so he can like lift objects, he can
got telekinesis,
like all sorts of kind of cool powers which are kind of linked to his emotions. He's a very kind of chill sort of guy where he doesn't really let a lot of things kind of happen to him. He's a bit dull in some ways, but he's very unassuming and very awkward at school, because he's like a middle schooler, but he's got these amazing powers which are kind of linked to his emotional well-being. And the more emotional he gets, the more the power that he has like increases, and there's a handy timer on screen which lets you know like where Mob is at with hitting his max power, which is 100%. So if he gets angry or upset, the counter goes up. When he gets to 100, he unleashes his full powers and full capabilities. Not all of it necessarily negative as well, like you see that a little bit in season 2 as well. It's an upsurge of feelings basically, which produces these extremely powerful emotions. So as I said, Mob's like a dumb kid basically. Despite all these amazing powers that he has, it's not made him any more popular. It's not made him any more self-confident or anything like that. It's just made him feel more like an outsider more than anything. But taking him under his wing is his master, who doesn't have powers, and seems to be tricking Mob into working for his incredibly dodgy, shady business, which is basically he's a con artist called Reigen. So Reigen runs a very dodgy business called Spiritual and Such, which is like a consultancy agency for people who have supernatural issues.
Or they think they do.
Yeah. Most of the time it boils down to Reigen giving him like back massages, or like he doesn't have powers, but when Mob comes along, he basically spies an opportunity to kind of make money and kind of taking advantage of Mob and his very trusting nature towards his master. But you kind of learn a bit more about their relationship as it goes on, so it doesn't seem quite as one-sided as it initially seems. And so the 2 seasons kind of basically follow Mob on his kind of a coming of age story, coming to terms with the incredible powers that he has and being in this world. He meets other espers along the way. He befriends many of them before eventually having to deal with the machinations of an evil organisation called Claw, who are kind of like an organisation of extremely powerful espers who kind of want to take over the world. And that kind of intersects with Mob on his kind of coming of age story as like a high school student.
I think that pretty much sums up the premise. I guess we should talk a bit about the characters.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Starting with Mob himself. So, I guess the first thing to bring up is that the reason that he is nicknamed Mob, it's a word that is kind of like a loan word that's kind of become like from what I've read, what I understand, it's kind of become like a saying in Japanese. So, like, a mob apparently means like a background character, almost. Mm-hmm. Like somebody you would see in a mob of people. And that's very fitting for somebody who is he's kind of a background character in his own life, I guess. So, Mobsy, cinnamon roll. A real cutie pie.
Yeah, and like some people kind of like defend Mob like unquestionably, and like it's kind of like missing the slight point of the show, because the thing that kind of holds Mob back is not the fact that he's got these amazing powers that he can't quite control, the fact that like he's not confident in himself and he kind of relies on others around him, and kind of part of the series is the self-actualization of realizing that he is worth something, which is good. You know, it's well trodden area, and it's it's always good to see that. But like Mob himself is a fun character, He's a fun character. He's a good protagonist. He's actually not in it quite as much as I was expecting, especially in the first season. But this is where it's my only slight issue with the show is that like I think the first season is kind of like I think it's good, but like it's very much just to lay the foundation work.
A little like My Hero, I guess.
A little like My Hero, yeah. Because then like the second season, I think like really runs with things and it gets much more interesting. The first season kind of Mob's not in it quite as much as I was expecting, but you get a real sense of, you know, who he is and the world around him and like what makes him socially awkward. He's got his hopes and his dreams, you know. He's got this naive hope that he's going to have a romance with kind of the I don't know, the popular girl in school and all this sort of thing. So yeah, no, I mean, like, you know, Mob's great. He's kind of got a really good, like, nice voice. Yeah, like it's very just relaxing to listen to. And what's kind of cool is that like a lot of the enemies that Mob goes up against, he doesn't really defeat them necessarily through like an overwhelming display of his powers. It's more through his, because
he is kind of like it is a last resort. Like he doesn't want to like use his powers against people. Yeah,
and like he more uses as like a last resort kind of thing, and he more wins the battles for like his own empathy for other people instead, which I think's good. Yeah, he takes lots of like really fun, unexpected turns kind of thing in that regard when it comes to Mob.
So, the next character we got to talk about is Reigen.
Who's the best character in the show.
Yeah, honestly, my trash was Bondo.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. I really like him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Reigen's like a dodgy con man who, as I said, you know, he's seemingly taken advantage of Mob's powers to kind of further his business needs, because he obviously comes across people who really do have issues with the supernatural, and obviously he can't do it because he doesn't have any Esper powers, so he uses Mob instead. And again, like at the start, it seems kind of like quite a one-sided relationship, but I think as things kind of get on, you learn a bit more about like the relationship between the two of them, and it kind of makes a bit more sense.
Yeah, it's there's more to him than you expect, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I
definitely, for me, went from a like, oh, this guy's an asshole, but he's funny, to, oh, I genuinely love and care about this character.
Yeah. He's one that goes on the biggest journey, I think.
Yeah.
And whenever he's on screen doing anything like dodgy or shady, like he's great fun. Yeah, Mob views him as being like his master, even though he doesn't have any powers. But then you kind of learn later on that Mob doesn't see him as a master necessarily because Mob thinks he's got amazing powers. It's more that he likes him, respects him, and he's ultimately got a good outlook on life.
Yeah.
Even if he does fall into his own vices quite a lot. But yeah, Reigen's really fun. He's one of the things that really helps to kind of push the show over for me, I think. I think if Reigen wasn't in it, I think I'd like it a bit less.
Yeah.
Like quite a lot less. Even though like I think Mob's good. I think the show kind of slightly suffers in the ensemble character aspect. Like I think Mob and Reigen are great.
Yeah, I think they're the only two who are like really developed.
Yeah, they're the most developed ones, because I think they're like everybody else. I think they're good and they serve a purpose within the show, but they don't really come close to Mob and Reigen. Like their relationship is the heart of the show, and I suppose with only roughly 12 episodes a season, you want to have a clear heart to the show.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think Reigen and Mob's relationship, it definitely is that.
Yeah, very much, I think. But the kind of, I guess the third man in this 3-man band, not really a man, but it's actually a spirit called Dimple.
Dimple, yeah.
And Dimple actually is also a lot of fun.
Yeah, so Dimple's like a little spirit that follows Mob and Reigen around. He used to be a much like bigger and stronger spirit,
and Mob kind of defeated him, and
yeah, Mob kind of defeated him, and then they couldn't quite shake his weakened spirit. But like he's like, God, how to describe him?
Well, first of all, he's like a little green blob.
He's a little green blob. He's very coarse. He's very rude.
Yeah,
he's very matter of fact. You know, he's
and he in the beginning obviously attached himself to Mob, thinking, oh, I'm just going to use this kid. And he could tell right away that Reigen didn't have powers, and he was like, I'm not going to bother telling Mob because I want to use Mob too. And but actually, as it goes on, he actually seems to like start caring about Mob too, and actually genuinely becomes his friend and ally.
Yeah, and that's really fun to see. Because at first I was a bit like, okay, all right, I'll go along with this, but like Yeah, like I don't think, especially like when it gets into like season 2, I think that's when like I think that character really kind of comes into his own a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Star said, even though these other characters we're going to mention now aren't as developed as Mob and Reigen, they're still good. Like
It's still fun.
They're still fun. They serve a purpose within the story.
Yeah, so some more names for me to butcher here. The next character I think we should talk about is Ritsu, who is Mob's younger brother, who doesn't have psychic powers at first. At first, yeah. More on that later, but I think the relationship between Mob and Ritsu is pretty interesting.
Yeah, like, you know, it's fine, like, sibling relationship. One wants what the other has, and same for each other, you know, they both want what the other has, you know. Ritsu wants psychic powers, but Mob just wants Ritsu's natural charisma and smarts in school and all this sort of stuff. So it's all fine. Like that's definitely one of the strongest aspects of season 1, I think.
Yeah.
Season 2 doesn't even do like a massive amount with that relationship, but they kind of explore it quite a bit in season 1.
Yeah. There's some really interesting kind of dynamics where I think you at first think their relationship is just good and solid, but then it kind of some of the kind of resentment starts to come out as it goes on, and you kind of realise that Ritsu's actually got a lot of like pent up feelings about Mob, his powers and all that. That's pretty interesting. Then I guess the last big character to talk about is Taruki. Is that how you say his name?
I think so. You don't really hear his name said too much on screen.
No.
So you don't really get used to hearing it. But he's like another Esper. He's like a rival to Mob in the first season. He's like a kind of cocky gun show, like kind of got like a rock star attitude towards him. He's someone of a school and stuff, and like he gets involved in Mob over the course of like the first season. Through a series of happenstances, they kind of end up becoming like friends and allies. You know, if he never quite stops kind of viewing himself as kind of being like Mob's kind of rival. But he's also good. He's also, you know, a good character. Again, like it's serviceable in terms of this story. I think he's where he needs to be, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything particularly special about him.
Yeah. He's just kind of like a fun character.
Yeah. I think they get a lot of mileage from him in season 1 because like Mob basically chops off his hair.
Yeah.
At one point, like in season 1,
by accident.
And leaves behind like a bald patch.
Yeah.
And then he turns up again later on in the season. He's got like this ridiculous hairdo, like almost like a Marge Simpson style hairdo, which like no one comments
on it.
But like they're doing like serious scenes or action scenes. He's got like this ridiculous do, and like nothing's made of it. It's good. It's really funny.
Yeah.
But then he kind of gets a Naruto haircut, and he kind of just becomes part of the background, really. You know, like he's there for when there needs to be like more battles that don't involve Mob. But then like after that, then I would say the other characters in the show are more like kind of groups.
Yeah, like you've got the Body Improvement Club, who I do really like the Body Improvement.
I like the Body Improvement Club quite a bit.
Yeah, they're I mean the thing about them is they're a bunch of, like, at first, intimidating-looking jock guys, but Mob wants to join their club. He wants to get better at physical sports and stuff, and they are the loveliest, most accepting guys ever. They just totally take him under their wing and are just really supportive, good bros.
Yeah. Really supportive in whatever Mob does.
Yeah.
They're really good. I really liked them.
Then there's the Telepathy Club, headed by the girl who, I forget her name, but she kind of interested in finding aliens, but they kind of also are just using their allotted club time just to
kill time, basically.
Kill time, you know. So they spend all their money on just like snacks, and they just play video games and just kind of waste their time, which same.
Yes.
Yeah.
So are any other kind of groups of characters in the show?
I mean, I guess there's Claw, which are kind of like the
villains. Yeah.
Don't know. A lot of them are like fun characters, but none that I think you could talk about in a whole lot of depth.
Yeah, because again, like the thing with like the stuff with I think like this author's stuff is that like a lot of them are just there for like gags.
Yeah.
And like they're not meant to be like insightful or in-depth characters. They're just meant to be like funny gags, which a lot of the time does do land. You kind of get the cool battles, but then invariably they're always defeated like in a bit of an unexpected kind of way. It's got the trappings of like being like a shonen anime, but like I'd argue it's not. It is a bit different in that regard. So it was yeah. But funny stuff happens with the villains, but obviously I think saying much more in this section is
bit spoilery.
Bit spoilery.
Yeah. So I guess at this point. Oh, actually, you know what? I think we should talk a little bit about the art style, because they use some really interesting techniques.
Yeah, they definitely. Yeah. So like the blocky kind of underdeveloped character designs of one's art style are kind of like used to their full advantage in this show. You know, like the One Punch Man anime very much takes more cues from like the remake. You know, spruces it up a bit, makes it look nice, all that sort of stuff. While the Mob Psycho 100 anime, I think, definitely plays into it a lot more, which is cool. But then you also kind of get lots of slightly more like experimental art styles as well. You get a really cool kind of like painted glass animation style quite a lot in season 1.
Yeah, when a lot of the time when spirits and ghosts are, you know, it kind of helps to like differentiate them, I think, and make them look kind of otherworldly. Yeah, and you also get like great like reaction shots as well of like the characters reacting to things that it's done like in like drastically different animation styles. You get like ultra realistic looking ones, and you get all sorts really. There's also really fun different things thrown into the blender. It's a really vibrant animation style, which I said takes advantage of how simple the character designs are, that one's character designs are, which I think is really cool. Again, Bones are real masters of that sort of thing, and like something like Fullmetal Alchemist kind of shows off their creative chops for doing like a big, huge like fantasy story, but then I think Mob Psycho really shows off how creative they can be as well, with like different animation styles. The intertitle cards of like season 2 are really cool. Oh yeah, I love those. They kind of actually like they're like a mini story in themselves. Yeah, like and they're done like in more like pencil-y art style. Yeah, and, but there's lots of different variety on display. Then when the animation really does need to kick in, it is gorgeous. It is amazing to look at. Yeah, but that's the whole thing. Mob Psycho is just an incredibly solid series. There's really ostensibly nothing really massively wrong with it. It works in premise. The characters are fun. The animation's really good. The world's interesting, and the jokes all land for the most part, and you end up caring quite a lot about everyone. Yeah. So were there any episodes or arcs that you particularly liked? Okay, so I really liked a lot of this kind of comes from season 2, because I do think season 2 is a lot stronger than season 1. But from season 1, I liked the one where, I guess we're getting to spoilers now. Yeah. I liked the episodes where Ritsu was awakening to his psychic powers. Yeah. Like, I think they were really good. I think they kind of helped to kind of deepen their relationship as brothers. But most of the stuff I'm going to say now comes from season 2. I love the episodes. It's like a 2-parter where Mob goes into like the locked mind of like a rich girl, as it turns out like an Esper has like invaded her, like a dead Esper. Like a dead Esper has like invaded her mind. Like it's possessing her. It's like kind of like The Exorcist. A little bit, yeah. Yeah. So Mob has to go in, and basically Mob gets trapped like in this the psychosis of like this girl's world and stuff, and he has to live in there for 6 months, go through like this mentally torturous setting. Yeah, it's really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really great. So yeah, I really liked that one. The one where Reigen falls in hard times, I really liked. Yeah. Where like him and Mob have a bit of an argument, a bit of a difference of opinion on things, and Reigen decides to go out on his own. He can't because he's a fuck up. And then he ends up like on national television and makes like a fool of himself, and it's great. And then he gets cancelled. Yeah, but Reigen gets cancelled. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I really liked it. It's really funny. Yeah. What about you? I really liked the one where starting from season 1, I really liked that one where Mob and Ritsu finally have a confrontation about, psychic powers, but then one of the guys from Claw shows up to kidnap Ritsu, and it's just kind of like everything's suddenly very high stakes at once.
Yeah.
I also liked the little arc where Mob and Reigen kind of fall out.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great. And, I just tend to I like a lot of the episodes that are just not really high stakes stuff, that it's just like Mob and Reigen doing a job.
Yeah. That's what I liked a bit more like in season 2.
Yeah.
Obviously in season 1 we kind of established the world, we know how everything works, and then season 2, until like the final 4 or 5 episodes, is really strong individual episodes about them going to do things and to go do jobs and stuff. There's one where they team up with another sidekick and they kind of go and debunk some urban legends, and they fight a ring style creature, which is fun. They're just also really fun individual episodes.
Also, I guess we should talk about the penultimate episode of season 1. They kind of fake out Reigen dying.
Oh yeah.
And we were so oh no, that we actually had to go do something after that, but we actually woke up early the next morning to watch the next episode before my family came to visit.
Just to confirm everything was okay with Reigen.
Yeah, because we were that invested.
Yeah. Other stuff is I also really liked the final episode of season 2, where it's just a fun little one where we go and investigate a hot spring, onsen hotel.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed that. I think that's an OVA.
Is it? Oh,
yeah,
okay. Right.
But actually, it's such a good OVA. It was as good as a normal episode.
I didn't realise that. Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed that too.
That was really fun. Yeah, I really liked that one quite a bit. So it's just it's a fun world to be in. I think that's the big takeaway from Mob Psycho 100. But it does get intense. When it needs to get intense, some intense things do happen. In the final few episodes where the head of Claw kind of reveals himself and Mob has to fight him, and they're kind of diametrically opposed people. They're both at the top of the game of what they do, but they just have different outlooks on the world and stuff. And obviously it's kind of a fun thing of how's Mob going to have to deal with this guy, because thus far Mob's just spoken to people, empathised with people, and they've kind of changed their minds, about things. It's kind of the way in Steven Universe.
Yeah.
The way Steven Universe deals with conflict, but maybe a little bit less Steven-esque machina. As sometimes that show kind of gets to be. But so how's Mob going to have to deal with this guy who's just hell-bent on taking over the world? So that's fun. As I said, I felt it was not a huge amount to talk about in Mob Psycho 100. I think it's one of them I think it'd be better on a rewatch.
Yeah.
But it's just as a fun thing to watch. It's incredibly high quality.
Yeah, it's really enjoyable.
Really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And
I like the themes that it has about. Definitely, I think it's got kind of 2 major themes really. The one is about very much about taking control of your own life and not being a background character, and just letting not just letting things happen to you, making decisions and being proactive. But also, I think there's a theme about not thinking that any particular talent or whatever that you might have makes you better than other people.
Yes.
It's kind of very that idea of specialness. It's more important to have friends and family and a support system. It is more important than being better or the best at something. So,
yes, I agree, definitely.
Yeah.
It's all really good stuff. It's all very well developed and explored, and obviously at the moment it feels a little bit incomplete because even though season 2 is big and it ends on a huge event kind of thing, there definitely feels like there's going to be room for a 3rd season, which I hope they announce.
Yeah, very much so. I would love to see more of these characters.
Yeah, cause it's a really fun world and really fun thing to explore. Yeah.
So I guess we should rank the openings. There's only 2 of them.
Yeah.
But, I think we should rank them still. They're both very good.
They're great, yeah.
Yeah.
But Bones, once again, smashes it when it comes to... We always smash it when it comes to openings, and we absolutely smash it here as well. Both are really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, I preferred one over the other, but then I kind of ended up liking another one more as I started humming it more and more around our flat. So yeah, I'll let you go first.
Well, I guess I would start with ranking from the bottom. So in second place, the first opening, 99.
99, yeah. They're both by the group's called the Mob Choir.
Yeah.
So we'd have to mention the band names, but yeah, 99.
99. It's a really catchy song. There's like, and actually I would say in both of these there is so much imagery and stuff going on. You can't even really take it all in.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, but really fun, energetic. The song will be in your head forever.
Yep, and my number 2 is also the same as well, 99. Really great. Everything that Grace said, basically.
Yeah.
Which then goes on to our number 1, which is 99.9. Also by the Bob Choir. And that is just, it's so good. The song is, at first I wasn't too sure, because I loved that first one so much. I love how the first song kind of manages to count from like 1 to 100 over the course of like the song. I think that's really cool. But this second one is just, I think even better. I think the song's better, and I think the imagery is a lot better.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster ride. It's full of weird imagery, and just a fantastic song. Just so catchy.
Yeah, very good.
Yes.
And while we don't really talk about the endings or rank them ever, I do want to say that the first season ending is really cool because it is all that painted glass effect,
yeah, it's
which
really good,
which is awesome.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah. So I guess that pretty much wraps up.
Yeah, a bit of a short one this week.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like, it's a difficult one because, like, Mob Psycho 100 does so much stuff good, but because it kind of does keep things relatively light. I don't know if there's a massive, because obviously, like, with a lot of these things, it's not the most complicated series.
Well, I mean, it's not Evangelion.
It's not Evangelion, or it's not like Fullmetal Alchemist, where it's got like lots of lore to talk about and like.
Yeah, and like a bajillion characters.
Like a bajillion characters, like in My Hero Academia. It's just a solid, well done show. It's the sort of thing which, a high quality product, which you can see why people like it so much and kind of come back to. I can see myself rewatching Mob Psycho.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
I'm definitely allowed to come back to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got everything that you could possibly want from like a fun anime. I really have no complaints about it at all, except for maybe the first season to me feels a bit more foundational work, and then the second season is where I think for me it really fell into place and I really kind of fell in love with the series.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the last few episodes of season 1 is where it kind of just clicked for me. But yeah. I think from then on and season 2 just, hit the ground running.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay, so I think that leaves us just with the difficult task of placing this.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
In our rankings.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, shall I go first?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Alright, well, from the bottom, I'm gonna put Death Note at the bottom.
we'll forever
What a surprise! It's not even like I didn't like Death Note or anything, but like it has just been, I think, the least good thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So Death Note, then we go up to Demon Slayer, then we go up to the mixed bag that was The Promised Neverland, then Gurren Lagann, and I think I would put Mob Psycho 100 here.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Then you go up to My Hero, Snafu, Utena, Evangelion, Fullmetal Alchemist, and finally at the top, Brotherhood.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
And my list we'll go Death Note, Demon Slayer, the mixed bag of The Promised Neverland, Fullmetal Alchemist 03, then probably Mob Psycho 100, Gurren Lagann, My Hero, Utada, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Snafu, and then Neon Genesis Evangelion. Okay, and that's that's it for this very compared to last couple of weeks' episode. This is a very short one. We kind of exhausted ourselves at the end of our Evangelion.
Yeah. Oh my god, we were recording. It was so warm. Like it was like one of Britain's very few heat waves.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a fan in here.
It was bad.
Yeah.
we ended up speaking about Evangelion for about 2 hours and nearly died in the process.
And if you make it to the end of that episode, congratulations.
Yeah, we didn't say about the end of the at the end of that. Well done for making it that far, listening to our ramblings about that show. But next time we're gonna be exploring one of my favourites. We're going to do JoJo's Bizarre Adventure season 1. Because we're going to be doing basically with JoJo, we're going to be doing like a live ranking of it, basically. So we're going to talk about each part of JoJo in turn. But obviously, because season 1 covers parts 1 and 2 of the manga, we're going to just do parts 1 and 2 at the same time. Mm-hmm. But the future installments of JoJo will be about Stardust Crusaders, Diamond is Unbreakable, Golden Wind, etc. And then we'll be moving that show up and down the list as things start to happen. I suspect what might happen with the first season of the show, which covers Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency. But then as we start throwing in Stardust Crusaders and we do the next episode on JoJo, it might move up the list, might move down the list, don't know. And then as we start to build up a bigger picture of exactly what JoJo is, then we'll get a true reflection of what we think about the series as a whole. But because there's so much of it, we're just going to have to do it in basically by parts, and because parts 1 and 2 are relatively short, we can just do it all in one go. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure part 1 and 2 is coming up next time, which are Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency. So see you back then.